Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NRG series. My name is Will Hall, better known on the internet as Will Hall EXP. I am joined by Mr. Doomwick, Darren O'Donnell himself. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing very well, Will, and I am very, very excited to be commentating on some team action. It doesn't really get any better than team events.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It is a team event today. We have got how many teams? 89 teams in the room battling out. That's standard. That's modern and some legacy. Haven't seen legacy in a hot moment, so I'm really excited for that one to kick off. If you were playing today, Doom, what seat would you want to be in and what deck would you be on?
Honestly, I talked to you a little bit about this in the break. I've been playing a lot of standard, and I think standard is where I would want to focus my energy. And I'm a big fan of the Boros tokens deck, which
Okay.
seems to be a deck that's kind of been doing very, very well in the leagues and challenges. And I've been working on it myself, so that's probably where I would be today.
Okay, well, I feel like we're going to have Corbin would be have to play Merfolk, so he's going to sit in the modern seat. So that puts me in Legacy, and I'm just going straight, Frog reanimate shenanigans. I just want to play a
You're
lot of
not playing
creeps, a lot of
Legacy
Frog.
Infect?
It's Orcus Bowmaster's a card, okay, and
Yeah,
it's really,
sure.
really good, and it really, really hurts my Infect deck, unfortunately. But that's a whole different conversation because we've got so much of it today. We've got 7 rounds of this before we cut to the top finishers and see how it's going to go. Obviously, you're throughout today. This is going to be a long slug for you. You're doing every round today. I'm a part timer yet again. I'm just kicking the show off, and then we'll pass it off to Corbin later on. But they're going to be battling out for their share of $10,000 on the line today, and 3 more slots to the end of year Showdown Invitational that we've got going on. We would have got a bunch of people qualified for it. Maybe we can see who's already qualified for that and the leaderboard going up on the screen shortly, so we can kind of talk through that. This is as yesterday, so I don't think this has been updated since yesterday. So this is where we're at. Okay, everyone in orange has already qualified. We will see them on the next slide, and we will see them at the end of the year. Are there any standout players due in here?
I mean, just all of these names we've seen at a ton of our events: Harrison, Sean, May, Connor, Garrick, just Dom, Tom Harvey. Shout out to Dom, and yeah, just a ton of great players who are playing on the NRG series, and just the best of the best.
This is what I like. And this is my personal preference of having a series and being a player. Is I get to see my name on a leaderboard. I get to try every single event to try and get those more points to get this on the screen. So I know every single time I turn on coverage, I will see my name on the screen because I have a huge ego, Devin. I need to get it scratched. But I'm not that good, which is the problem. So I never see myself on the next slide where we see the players that actually qualified, and we will see in the end of the year 35K invite only event. These are some killers on this list. Point out a few to me.
Nikachu, shout out to Nikachu, Jonathan Zaksek, who took down a showdown with Merfolk, and yeah, just like I said, all these names you see basically every single NRG and are always at the top of the standings for good reason.
Yeah, always at the top. Some absolute good. Obviously, returning champ Stephen Dykeman there. Then we've got May French is in there. The managed to take down Dom on his back-to-back weekend. Did it twice. It was like that's not good enough for me. I need to do it twice. It was such a sick weekend of Magic to see there. Really cool moving forward on that. So that's all the players that we'll see as we move forward. But we've got players sat down in the feature match ready to go. And as we've told you, it is 3 different seats. There's one in standard. There's one in modern. There's one in legacy. And because we haven't seen Legacy in a while, well, we're going to kick off with Legacy today, where we got a bit. I'm going to say I haven't seen it in a hot moment, but a bit of Yorion out there. So everyone's a fan of the big 80 card decks. That is going to be one of our main feature matches this round, and it's going up against. Did I see? Was it a Frog Tide or Frog Tempo or something?
Grixis Tempo, Channeler, Nethergoyf, Psychic Frog, Murktide Region. What surprises me about this Legacy feature match is 0 copies of Grief, which is kind of a menace that has been tearing up Legacy and has caused a lot
Yeah.
of conversation over the past couple of weeks. But yeah, no Delvers here. This basically we've swapped Delvers for Nethergoyfs, right?
Nevergoyf's a good card, especially when you're playing frogs and you can just grow it by putting more cards into your graveyard. It's pretty cool. I don't see like even in this sort of deck, I feel like I should be putting reanimates in there. I just want to reanimate everything. I'm very greedy when it comes to my decks that I play in Legacy, but it's going to be interesting. We get to do it. I haven't covered Legacy, I think, since the last NRG that we did together, and that one was a hoot. Just seeing really powerful cards all come together. I know there's a lot of talk at the minute about what might happen tomorrow in not only modern, that's got the big one, no, target on its back, but then so does Legacy. I would even go as far as say as Pioneer does as well. I think tomorrow, hopefully, is going to be a huge shake-up. This is my personal preference. I hope it's a nice big shake-up for tomorrow. But Who knows what's going to happen? We're all going to have to find out as we go. And here we go. We're going to kick off today, round number 1 of 7 here at the NRG series. Kicking off with Legacy. It looks like Craig on the right of our screen on Grixis Tempo is kicking us off. Turn 1 fetch.
Yep, so it's going to be fetch for Volcanic, not a Black Source. Presumably has something like a Nethergoyf. This matchup is really interesting because, so a card that you typically see in a lot of these sort of like Delver or Tempo or blue-black Grixis style decks is Orcish Bowmasters, and one of the primary cards, card advantage engines in Kyle's deck list is, as you mentioned, that copy of Up the Beanstalk, and without something like Orcish Bowmasters to kind of keep that in check, it'll be really interesting to see how that dynamic shifts, Beans versus a deck without Bowmasters.
Yeah, so obviously our good friend Mr. Anu is a huge endorser of these the Beans deck in Legacy. Loves playing it, so he's gonna be super happy that this is on the screen. I should probably give him a message and be like, "Hey, Anu, get in here. We've got your deck going." But how important is it to be on the play on these tempo decks when you've got access to cards like Days in the main?
Absolutely. Yeah. You kind of hit the nail on the head. This is the sort of classic Delver versus mid-range strategy where the Delver deck, or I guess in this case, the Delverless Delver deck, just wants to kind of get onto the board with a threat and protect it as long as possible. In this case, it's a channeler, but there's a host of cheap threats here: 4 Channeler, 4 Nethergoyf, and 4 Psychic Frog. So the goal for Craig here is to just land a threat and try to protect it as long as possible, and just kind of keep Kyle stumbling. Not necessarily going to close out the game quickly like a traditional aggro deck would, but it's more of here's my threat, and I'm just going to answer your ways to answer my threat.
Look how quickly we're filling up this graveyard here. We do have access to things like Murktides, which we used to see some of the other big fat Delver creatures floating around. We used to have the Angler. I remember when Tasco was all the rage. RIP that card. Don't see it anymore. But being able to just have a 1 mana, or in this case 2 mana threat. It could be a 7-8 powered flyer in Legacy is huge, right? Even just a 1 mana Nevergoyf like this. That's a quick math.
Sorcery,
Is that a 3
instant,
4?
artifact, land. I think it's 4. I see
4?
sorcery, artifacts, instant, land. Oh no, there's no instant. Right? Okay. What is that promo card? Will, you're good at promos.
That is a collapse. The Schnurker. What's it called? Molten Collapse.
Oh, Molten Collapse. Okay, so that's a sorcery. Yeah, so 3 sorceries, artifact, 2 lands. So yeah, currently a 3/4.
I did a thing.
I don't know. I don't know how you're so good at that game. By the way, it's just you can see like the corner of a promo, and you snap it off.
Do you know how? It's because I buy them all. That's literally why.
I
buy.
Okay.
I'm the guy that goes, if I like. There's a recent secret lair that just came out with Call of Calling in it. I had to buy 4 copies of that secret lair just to get the 4 copies, and there's got all these extra cards that I don't need. Like I am that guy. But that's the Swords of Plowshare coming down. So that's the premium removal spell in Legacy. I would say that's going to add another point of life because Delirium is not on. Why did we take out the Dragon's Channel and not the Nevergoyf?
I think Kyle is maybe worried about looking for ways to Kyle wants to try and get Craig off of ways to find extra cards. So the Channeler doesn't necessarily provide card advantage per se, but it's very good card selection where it allows Craig every time he's casting these cantrips to dig closer to those answers like Force of Will and things that would prevent Kyle from taking those game actions.
That's good. It's all these micro decisions. Like I've really tried to get into Legacy in the last year or so, mainly because the new forced me to. But like I've been to some tournaments. I've done some things. It's a really cool format, but it really rewards the micro decisions. Like you can't just willy nilly crack your fetches like we do in Modern. Even though it's kind of got a little bit better now. We've got Surveil lands, but like it in the day you just used to crack them and whatever. I'll take my life. In this one, because we've got access to all these different cantrips and manipulate the top of our deck. We've really got to set up these turns in advance before we do things. And here comes the Leyline's Binding coming down. And be interesting to see this dissolves. Also play my Days I like.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it'll be interesting to see what he goes to kill. He decides to kill the Channeler again. So it's Kyle is really just kind of ignoring that Nethergoyf. I mean, realistically, it's not that much more of a clock. It's right now it is 4 power because the days hit the graveyard, but even then, it's still the difference between 3 and 4 is not too much, especially with Kyle at 13, where the 4 is still only a 3-turn clock. And Craig says, you know what, the third time's the charm.
You really don't want me to have these, but I'm just going to keep playing them, add them to the battlefield. I did mention the fact that there's a 4-colored beans deck on the camera, and guess who appeared in the chat?
Oh, it's like Spidey senses,
Oh, it's always going to happen. It's okay. This is the Leyline Bind's interesting to see in these decks. You know, do they play any Triumphs? Let me have a look at this deck list. Or is Triumph
There's
just too
one.
slow? There was one, yeah, I can
There
see
is
that.
one, yeah. Even in Legacy, tap lands, we still got to play them.
This deck just plays everything I want to play. It's got Uros in it. It's got Flages in it. It's got main deck Veil Summers in it. I love it.
Yeah, another interesting card that we didn't touch on was the main deck Ground Seals. As we discussed earlier, the Legacy has sort of had this Reanimator problem lately, where just Reanimator is all over the place, and Ground Seal is not a card that you see every day, but it is a 2-mana enchantment ETB draw card, and cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. So really, really good against those Reanimator style decks.
It's funny because I was actually watching someone that was in chat, shout out to me, streaming this deck, and he played it thinking that it was safe against the Reanimate deck, but they changed up the Reanimate package to, I can't remember the card. It's like a 2-mana card.
Exhume.
Yeah, they changed it
Right,
up to
okay.
Exhume to play around it, and
I didn't even think about
was
that.
just like, whoa, that's so big brain. And here's the 4th Dragon Age Channeler. That's a full house of Dragon Age Channelers on the battlefield, or at least been cast this game, shall we say. Yeah, we're doing a count as well over here on Kyle's side. Likes that top card. It's a Wasteland.
Well, no. So you see what Kyle did there. He drew a card for turn and kind of paused for a little bit. Do you know why he did that?
No. Tell me.
Well, there are 2 copies of Terminus in Kyle's deck list, so I was doing the miracle check to see if that was the top card. Maybe kind of putting I was going to say putting the Fear of God into Craig, but he would have cast it if that was the top card, so Craig can probably assume that it wasn't. But yeah, 2 copies of Terminus, and I believe there is one more miracle in the form of Triumph of St. Catherine, which is a card that we don't see every day, but that one is pretty sweet.
That is a real sweet card when you see that. But we're going to see this Path to Exile getting put on top of our deck from another. This just seems like every good bang card in Moderns in this deck. This is a Mystical Sanctuary. So because we have 3 islands in play when this resolves, we can put a card like Sorcery or Instant on top of our library. That being that Swords to Plowshare.
Yeah, really heads up play here from Kyle. Fetch the Mystic Sanctuary, put the plow on top, and then play the Up the Beanstalk to draw into the plow. I gotta say, Kyle's leftovers aren't very good though. If this Swords to Plowshares does not work, Kyle's in a rough spot.
Well, yeah, all we've got now in hand is Land and Wasteland. OG Wasteland, opposed to where Craig's playing the Lord of the Rings Wastelands. That's actually the ones I own. I think they're the prettiest ones. Just saying. Get in there for another 3.
Channeler's going to put into 3, and Kyle really needs a good top deck here. And
well, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I would say it's pretty good.
Is a 3-mana Lightning Helix that can come back good. Force a will check. Nope.
See, the funny story about this, though, is Kyle has Tropical Island, Mystic Sanctuary, and Basic Island, so we're really not even close to flashing back that Flage yet.
It's done its job. It's done its job at the minute. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good enough.
We're in double lightning bolt range now. We're gonna see our first Surveil land here in Legacy.
I'm actually going to take a look at the mana base because I want to do a check for how many actual white sources, because I think one of them got wastelanded. Kyle has 2 Tundras, 1 Meticulous Archive, 1 Plateau, 1 Plains, 1 Savannah. So plenty of white sources. But as of right now, like I mentioned, just doesn't have the ability to flash that back. But as long as Craig does not find another threat immediately, has a little bit of time to set up and try to find those lands to get the Flage back.
Swamps the graveyard. See a Force of Will in hand. Play our land and go. That's a Force of Will back, but now we play our land so we can hard cast it. But we're going to pick...
interesting.
Chose makes sense, right?
Yeah, I was going to say chose to pick up the Yorion instead. If he has to cast the Force of Will, still can pitch the Yorion to it, but leaving up the opportunity to sort of play the Yorion, blink the Beanstalk, and then get a threat in a card. But the Wasteland's gonna stop Kyle from gonna prevent Kyle from being able to take that line.
There's a Force Negation, so we've got some reactive cards in our hand right now. Nowhere near casting that Flage back, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And we got Wastelanded too. So now we're on Volcanic Island Sanctuary Trop. So we have only one of our 4 lands cast that Flage. So we're still 3 away.
There isn't anything crazy going on that we can manipulate our mana, is there? No. Okay.
No, not that I
Brainstorm, that's a good one.
Yeah, and we're gonna just go ahead and fire that off again. Craig really just wants to try and find threats. Well, now we're not gonna find any threats because that's gonna make Kyle is gonna force a negation that, which does make a lot of sense. You want to just kind of keep Craig off of those big threats as long as possible, and Kyle knows that you can't force a negation the threats, so brainstorm is a good target. And
Oof.
threat we did find.
Yeah, this was gonna let us draw a card, remember, because there is another beanstalk on the battlefield. But first, we're gonna let the Dell happen. Get rid of those. Gonna turn it into a 8/8, maybe. Yep. Well, at the minute, at 6 at the minute, 7. Do we need to go big? They're only at 6
Nah,
life.
yeah, you don't need to go super all in here. And I think what Craig is thinking is maybe he wants to save a couple of spells in the graveyard in case he draws the second Murktide. So, with Kyle,
Oh,
Kyle's down to 5 from the Force of Will.
do you see
And
what we drew off the bean? We drew the terminus.
that's
So
funny.
awkward.
Yeah, you could imagine if Kyle knew the top card was Terminus, maybe he wouldn't have fought over the
Yeah.
Murktide with the Force of Will, but that's kind of awkward. I mean, still has the Terminus, and as we play land number 5 here, we're going to get a Meticulous Archive. I mean, any land would still let Kyle hardcast it, and now we're halfway there towards Flage because we have the Volcanic and the Meticulous Archive. And I guess if you're Kyle here, it's a question of I wonder if Kyle would be interested in keeping lands on top because the Flage and the Terminus. It's kind of close. I feel like I would be interested in maybe just keeping it, but we'll see what Kyle does.
Ooh, Lawrence
What was
revealed off
that?
the top.
Lorien, okay. Draw 4.
It seems good to me. It's
Yeah,
it,
Kyle.
yeah, I was about to say this is gonna happen. Force stitching
There
force.
there was a bit of hesitation too because Kyle has seen days out of Craig, so Kyle was not sure. But even with the Force of Will, that exchange is still fine for Kyle because you got the card off the beanstalk.
Well, we drew another Lawrence revealed off for our card off the bean anyway. So we're gonna start off here though with a ponder. Ooh,
Ooh.
that's some nice hits. We've got a dress down. We've got a Surveil
So
land, and we've got the
you know what you could even do here?
go for it.
You could draw the dress down, and then on Craig's turn, dress down into the Triumph, and the Triumph only costs 2 on the Miracle, right? Let me look. Yeah, Miracle
Yes.
is 2. So you can dress down into the Triumph on Craig's turn, which is something I think Kyle is pretty interested in.
Okay. Have a little look. Found the frog.
Do we fight over this? I guess we don't have the ability to, because I
We
think
don't.
we only have Force of Negation, right?
Yeah, we've got the dress down. That's about it. Flip this. Try and cast this. Draw a
Oh,
card because it's so
God.
five. A value train is running right now, and oh yeah, yeah.
Craig's just off it.
Turns out having a big 5/5 life linker for 2 mana is pretty good in Legacy, even in your 80 card pile. Shout out to those sleeves as well. But we're going to move across because this is a team trios event, so we don't have to wait for them to decide. Well, we can just jump to another game. So we're going to jump across to standard now, which I know you're a big fan of this. This is your jam, so to speak. Talk to me about what I'm just seeing now. What is that card?
That is a hired claw off of a Cavern of Souls. The deck that Christian is playing is affectionately known as Rakdos Lizards, and the reason is basically every creature in the deck has the lizard creature type, and it's utilizing a lot of synergies. Where hired claw says whenever a lizard attacks, you deal a damage. There's a lot of cards that lizards that deal 1 damage, and then lizards that also reward you for dealing your opponent damage. As you can see, this is kind of the perfect ideal start here for Christian. 1 drop on turn 1, and then that second card that Christian played is Flame Cash Gecko, which for those of you who remember Burning Tree Emissary, it's a 2-mana 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, you make a black and a red, and then that gives you the 2 mana to also play Gev. So really aggressive start here, and Aviva only leading on a turn 2 Innkeeper's Talent, not exactly something that we would want when
Okay,
you're facing
I'm
down this
already
much
signed
pressure.
up. This is my deck now. I want to play this lizards deck. One, because like I say, I'm playing lizards, and two, look how powerful that is. You mentioned Burning Tree Embassy. Throw back to that card, one of my favorite cards ever to play in standard. And now I'm turning. What it was this turn 3, and I'm attacking for a bunch here. This is what 6, 7 damage coming across. I'm in. I'm locked. That's it. After this game, I'm getting this deck. It's that simple.
Yeah, this is where I go to the sideboard and I look and see how many sweepers that Haviva has in her sideboard, and there's a decent amount. There is 4 copies of Choking Miasma, but I mean, if you look at this battlefield, she needs it, or we're just dead this turn. And there's a Glissa, which does kind of help lock up the battlefield a little bit. But honestly, if you're in Christian's spot, you can probably just say, okay, I'm okay with losing one of these creatures because I'm dealing you enough damage that, losing one creature in combat doesn't really matter too much here. But yeah, that was basically the decider whether or not Haviva had that sweeper on turn 3. If she did, pretty good position. But now I think she might just be a little bit too far behind on board.
No, I think like what's the worst that happens? You attack with everything, you lose one of these creatures, you deploy another creature, so you can do the same the turn after potentially. This turn you end up getting in like dropping the life points down to about 5. So yeah, I think you're the line that you said is where I'd kind of be on this as well.
Yeah, because on the board, if she blocks, I would assume she blocked the give. The Hired Claw will trigger. That'll put her to 9, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should put Haviva down to 4, I believe, or 3 rather. Sorry. So still a pretty good spot here. Thoughtstalker Warlock is the card here for Christian. Maybe
Love
we
it.
can bring that one up on the screen. But that one is 3 mana 2/2 menace, and then when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life, you get to basically Thoughtseize them.
Mm-hmm.
And it has some very nice synergy with Gev because Gev says whenever you cast a lizard spell, deal 1 damage to I think it's each opponent. So the cast deals them a damage, and then once it comes into play, you've already dealt them a damage to get that trigger.
Dude, I'm so sold on this deck now. This is
It's good.
exactly what I want to do in Magic. Is all this? There it is on the screen. No, I'm pulling one out the hat again. I know what this card does because I've drafted it a lot. Like that's
But
it's
isn't
what
it busted in draft too?
oh, it's so good. It's so good
Yeah.
in draft. It's sick. And yeah, we're gonna get across with everything. I imagine there's a block happening.
Yeah, either the give or the fire, the mentor. Looks like we're going to block the give, which does make sense. That one represents a little bit more damage. I mean, again, we're kind of in a spot where Haviva really needs sweeper or bust. And honestly, at this point, funny enough, the sweeper might not even do it because at 2 life, the sweeper that Haviva has only is -2/-2, and that Thoughtstalker Warlock is a 3/3. So even if we draw the Choking Miasma, which she did draw, I don't think it's enough because the Warlock survives, and that will have Menace on Christian's turn.
Yeah, I'm literally looking at the cards going through it and think you're exactly right. By the way, can I just, I always say this, Glissa is a heck of a card. Like this card
Oh,
is insane.
speaking of Glissa, no, I found the line. You attack with Glissa, remove the counter from Warlock, and then cast the Miasma. I guess you could just do it the other way around too. You could, you want to cast the Miasma first so you get damage in,
Oh,
right? Because Glissa
yeah,
can
because
remove
it's
counters. Yep.
yeah. I was about to say this card does so much for 3 mana. If it had one more toughness, it'd also be more broken. But I think you'd see it in played in a lot more formats. Like the fact it just dies to lightning bolts in other formats is pretty rough. But now, as long as she sees the line,
Oh
I don't
no, we
think she
didn't see the
did.
line. Oh,
I think she's
tough.
gonna. That's a rough one because obviously because it's got the minuses on it. The +1/+1 counter saves it. You attack, remove the counters. It drops to 0 power. It will then die. Yeah, that's unfortunate there, but that means that they're going to go to game 3. But we can go back to Legacy. Let's have a little look.
Glissa, honestly, Glissa's got too many words.
No.
Got too many words.
I'm a fan of just putting more words on cards, even for no reason, which seems to be some of the things that we see these days. Just put them on. Just put more cards, more text. Let's do it.
Have you ever seen the card Kaya Spirit's Justice, Will?
I give me a second.
It's a card that's been memed on a little bit because I think it has something along the lines of like 40 lines of text or something. And nobody actually I've read the card personally about 100 times and I still don't know what it does. So
Okay,
yeah,
well,
there it is. Look
here
at
it
that.
is.
We'll get
Here it
that
is.
one up in
Okay,
chat. It's
so
so small you can barely read it.
yeah, there's a lot of text on that. It's a planeswalker. It's meant to have text. Yeah, that's I use the old. They released that secret layer of like the old school cards, but done as planeswalkers. So there's no like they're not
Oh
laid
yeah.
out like this. It's just one wall of text like
Teferi
that.
Karn, yeah.
Yeah. That's the planeswalkers I use if I can. All right, chat. So that time for me to ask you, what legacy deck would you be bringing this weekend if you were playing in the NRG? I'm on the reanimate list. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna stick with the trend. I just want to be playing Griefs and reanimating big boys out of my graveyard. What about you, Devin?
Legacy, huh? I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, Will. I haven't really dabbled too much in Legacy. I think the last time I played Legacy, I was playing Initiative, but that was when the White Plume Adventure was still legal. So I don't know if that deck is good anymore. But yeah, I do kind of like those sort of white Ancient Tomb Stompy decks, though.
Okay. look, it's still a deck. It just might not be great right now. That's all.
Yeah,
It might be great as of tomorrow at 4 p.m. or whatever time it
you
happens
never
tomorrow.
know.
But we're starting off with a Nevergoyf here. You know, one of the MH3 cards that have been printed. This is we were like Tarmogoyf. It doesn't see play anymore. Sure, we'll make a 1-mana version for you. Turns out this one is actually pretty good. And now with just a simple fetch like that, we can get in there for 1 point of damage.
Yep,
Passing back.
and we'll see what Kyle's follow up is here. Kyle really wants to try and find, last game we saw Kyle kind of stymie the early aggression with a bunch of those swords to plowshares and was able to really keep Craig off the balance for a little bit. And it looks like Kyle's hand is maybe a little bit more, reactive in a different way. I don't see any swords to plowshares, but I see a couple Lorians. I see a red elemental blast and I think a solitude along with, is that a brainstorm?
That
I
is
think it
an
might be a
alternate
brainstorm.
art brainstorm because I use those ones as well.
They do look nice.
They're really nice. They were hard to get. That's what I'm saying to you. They were hard for me to get. And Lawrence revealed though that this cycle of of literally cycle creatures from Lord of the Rings really had a good impact in multiple formats, right? Like it made Living End so much more better, able to go down on their land count, up on their creature count, which is all they want to do. Really, we've seen them move into Legacy because Lawrence revealed great late game can draw you some cards, early game can get you some land, can also be used as a blue card to ditch to some of your Force of Negations, Force of Will type cards.
Yep, and there is an Orcish Bowmaster here from Craig. Now, we did talk a little bit about this because, I mentioned that Craig didn't have any copies of Bowmaster in the main deck. Well, there is one copy in the sideboard, so that is the one of here for Craig, but it's pretty good, especially against Kyle's hand with the Brainstorm, the Up the Beanstalk, that, Lorraine revealed. So a lot of cards that maybe we'll obviously firing off the Brainstorm in response to get under
Yeah.
the Orcish Bowmasters, but still a bit of a hindrance here, especially if the follow up wants to be Up the Beanstalk.
Oh, I'm using one of the Orc Army tokens for one of our artists that are on site this weekend. I know that
Ooh,
art
that
from
is
anywhere.
gorgeous. I
Yeah,
do like that.
there's some like, and that's the good thing about just these events in general. Yes, there's a bunch of magic. Yes, there's amazing stuff on the prize wheel, but there's also artists there. You can get your card signed, you get some fancy mats, some cool tokens like this one, and they get put on camera, and then we get to talk about them. So yeah, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. And so what is the Netherglyph is currently a 2-3 after that
Yeah.
Mishra's Bauble. So Kyle's gonna fall down a little bit more. There's the Triome. So Kyle's hand again was Up the Beanstalk. I think I saw an Ura that was picked up off the Brainstorm, and looks like Red Elemental Blast. There's the Solitude as well. So maybe he wants to go for. So I like this play because you're going to test the waters a little bit, see if the binding resolves, and then if it doesn't, you can untap Solitude and then Beanstalk. But now by casting the binding first, you can actually go Beanstalk, and then after the Beanstalk, follow that up with maybe the. I guess I don't think there's another white card for the Solitude.
We put the Yorion in hand here instead
Now
of
there is.
playing Beanstalks. So this is where I feel like my inexperience comes in here. I'm like, oh, I'll just slam my Beanstalks this turn. Like, why would I not play both Beanstalks and try and set up for like a powerful later turn? At the minute, there's only 3 damage on the battlefield.
So the reason I think you want to do that is you don't have a white card for the Solitude, and I think Kyle's plan is to, like, if your plan is to Beanstalk and then Solitude the Netherglyph next turn, I
Mhm.
think he's better off doing it this way because now he has the option to Solitude this turn if he feels like he needs to, but if he doesn't want to, can just take the hit this turn, next turn deploy the Beanstalk, and then the Solitude after that to get that extra card.
All right, cool. That's then now we're all learning together. There's another green source off the top.
So now he has enough to deploy both if he wants to, which you can even go double Beanstalk and then try to hold up the Meticulous Archive. And we're going to fight over this.
Force
Oh,
ditching the burrows. That's gonna eat the elemental blast. Bean's gonna
goodness.
resolve. We draw a card. 1 mana, swords. Get the Nevergoyf out of here.
Yeah, this
And we've
is as
still
good
got
as it
white card plus
gets.
solitude.
Yep. And now the question for Kyle is, do you want to fire off the Solitude here, or do you want to wait for that second Beanstalk? It's interesting. The Netherglyph is currently, instant artifact land, so only a 3/4. I feel like if you're Kyle, you can maybe afford to take 3 more damage and then just set up for Beanstalk plus Solitude next turn, and then have the Uro as the leftover as well.
Like I played some Sultai lists in Legacy, and I just wanted to play Uro again. it is still a house in this format. Like you think, yeah, cool, you're gonna get shit damage in, you're gonna get me down to a low life. One Uro resolves, you get your triggers, you get it back from the graveyard. It's just so much extra value attached to one simple magic card. And on the other side, your opponent's got to use like maybe potentially 2 cards at a time just to stop it. It's so good. It really is so good. Not that I need to tell anybody how good Uro is, but
Yeah, and one other card that I
ooh.
want to bring up that I want to well, I was gonna say I didn't even think about this, but the other card that I wanted to bring up in Craig's sideboard was Price of Progress. As you know, this is the Harbinger of the Seas that we kind of saw to do a little bit yesterday in Modern. Pretty good here. Now, what I will say is the unfortunate thing for Craig here is Kyle does have Solitude, and that one is
Mhm.
castable through the Harbinger. So that's going to be able to take care of the Harbinger, and then maybe you could even go say Uro into Up the Beanstalk, maybe Beanstalk first to try and find another copy of Leyline Binding, which Kyle just drew off the top. So yeah, everything's kind of come up here for Kyle. Everything is coming up, Kyle.
Now basically every card's going to be drawing us 2 cards, at least the cards that matter in this case. So for 1 mana, Leyline's Binding, double trigger off the Up the Beanstalk, so we get 2 more cards to our hand. This gets rid of the Nevergrowth, leaving just a 1/1 Orc Amass token. Still got a land drop for the turn, I think. If we have a land, I'm going to go for a pond and look at top 3.
Yeah, at this point, Kyle essentially just has everything he could ever want and just wants to make sure that there's nothing something. I think he's maybe thinking about the top deck. Maybe he doesn't have Price of Progress on his radar, because I think that's the one card that Craig could draw at this point, where if Kyle doesn't have a counter spell lined up, and I don't see a Force of Will in hand. So Price of Progress is maybe the only path to victory here for Craig, but we're gonna run out of time shortly because that Uro is gonna gain a bunch of life too.
Yeah, we're going to see. If anyone that did not play in the era of Euro when it was legal in Modern, you're probably going to see why this card is now not legal in Modern. It does a lot. So we're going to gain 3 life. We're going to draw a card. We're going to play an extra land for the turn. Then it goes to our graveyard. Kind of see this effect with Flage a lot, but just imagine drawing cards and gaining more life and adding more land to the battlefield with your Flage. That's basically what this is.
Yeah, this is Flage, but instead of drawing a Lightning Helix, you're drawing a random card, right?
What's
That's the
the?
what people have described it as.
Are we missing any of the giant cycles? So we got Croxer, Euro, Flage.
That's it,
That's the
right?
only
That's the
3
only
we've
three.
got, right? So we're due a couple more.
Are
MH4,
we?
MH5.
I think they should I think they should make more like Croxa and less like Ura. I think the idea was that Flage was maybe in between Croxa and Ura, but I think it's way more closer to Ura than it is Croxa.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, this is a way to go around it. The card is just so good. Chat saying the lore only had 3 Titans. Okay, that's interesting. That's cool, actually. Like, I love when it throws back to lore. I wish I was more into the lore of Magic than
Same.
I was. But yeah, we're going to take that one down. So we're going to see Kyle take it down with 4 colored beans. That's a nice 2-0 victory. But if you look at all the rest of them, everyone's at 1 apiece. So we're going to move back to that standard because standard has just got a fresh new set, whole new rotation. So we get to look at these cool decks. Plus, I want to see more lizards. Looks a little bit more of a not as aggressive board state as last time we were watching.
Yeah, if we're coming into this game, this is kind of how you want the game to go for Haviva, not turn 1 drop into Burning Tree Emissary plus 2 drop into, turn 3 2 more spells. This is the game that Haviva wants to be playing. Now, we didn't touch on this for a little bit when we got to this game before, but Haviva is playing. It says Golgari mid range, but realistically, Will, it's kind of like Golgari Splinter Twin. So the combo that these Golgari decks are playing nowadays is the Innkeeper's Talent plus Vraska Betrayal's Sting. So Innkeeper's Talent is the enchantment that puts counters on things, and then when you get to the 3rd level, it says if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that number of those kinds of counters. So what that means is that Vraska would normally enter with 6 loyalty. It will now enter with 12, which means you can immediately ultimate. And the ultimate says give your opponent 9 poison counters. Well, 9 times 2, Will, that's 18. And you know what happens if you have 18 poison counters?
I feel like I know more than most people in the world, but you get a handshake. That's what
Yes, you
happens.
do.
You get a handshake and a fist bump, and your opponent going, "What just happened?" You're like, "Well, that's what just
Now,
happened."
I don't know if we're going to see that in this game because the Christian's deck is a little too aggressive for that. But that is a tactic that these Golgari decks frequently move towards in a lot of these matchups.
Christian, unfortunately, we did get to look at the hand from the bat. It had 2 lands in it. We then go to a combat, cycle one of the or rummage one of the cards from our hand into the graveyard, draw a fresh one. It was another land, so a little bit flooded over here. The every aggro player's nightmare, so to speak. That's going to be a go for the throat off the top. That's exactly what you want if you're the mid-range deck against these creature decks. So it seems to be everything's going pretty good here for this Golgari deck. I think this is what a lot, as you said, because of the split between thing. This is one of the ones that's on my radar of decks that I potentially should be looking at and keeping an eye on, especially because now we've got the announcements of, I'm going to say GPs coming back, or GP Light, whatever we're going to call them, and spotlights. You're going to be the first one in America is going to be standard.
Yep, I'm going to go to that one. I think it's Atlanta, and it's not too far.
Yeah, I've got dates of it, haven't they? Like I know I'm going to the European one. But we got the modern one, so I'm super happy about
that. Will, can I convince you to come to Atlanta?
What's the date of it?
Second week of January, I think.
Second week of January. My birthday's in January.
Is it?
So I mean,
you have a little birthday celebration.
I'm in Italy, but I can the second weekend there's free.
I'm being told it's the first. I'm being told it's the first weekend of January.
What, the 4th, 5th? Oh
yeah, no, it looks like it's.
Yeah, I'm in Italy.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'd definitely be there. You know what I mean? It's weird that me and you still have never met in face to face. By the way, like we were both in Vegas at the same time, but we never bumped into each other.
Were you in Chicago?
No.
Okay.
I was in Philadelphia. Chicago's the only one I had to miss.
Okay, got it.
Because of work. I'm coming to Vegas this year, though. If anyone's going to Vegas, chat. Anyone going to Vegas this year?
We're being asked by production, when do we get the NRG coverage team at a trios? I mean, you talked about this yesterday. Me, you, Corbin.
I'm so down to come. It's a long flight, but I'll do it. Derek, aren't you queued for Worlds? Like that's the cheat code. Yeah, I'm going. Humble brags. Oh, why are you going? What are you playing? You playing the 100K? No, I'm at the World Invitation. Oh, okay, cool. I'll get back in my box.
All right, what's going on in this game? Haviva's attacking with some stuff, and it looks like Christian is flooding out pretty hard here. Not a lot going on for Christian. I mean, you're trying to think of in situations like this, you like to take a look at the Rakdos deck and see if there's any kind of big haymaker, like some sort of planeswalker that can help establish control of the battlefield, or like some big mid-range card. And just looking at these Rakdos decks, they don't really have a lot. It's usually like when their aggressive plan doesn't work out that well, there's really not a ton they can turn to. I mean, there's 2 copies of Urbrask's Forge in the sideboard, but this late in the game against this much pressure, not really going to do that much. There's no sweepers on this. Well, I guess I say there's no sweepers, but there is Glistening Deluge if that came in. But I can't imagine that would come in against the Golgari deck.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Like you cap out. I'm looking at the mana code, and this realistically you cap out at 3. So 4 is kind of like the sweet spot. You don't want to have any more lands past 4. Yeah, we have just got a grip full of lands. I do see 1 spell pulled to the front, so maybe we've got something. But we're going to go for another rummage effect here. It does have Menace 2/3. Discard a card, draw a card.
Yeah, and you see Christian only attacking with the Restless Vents here because of that Restless Cottage on Haviva's side that can get in front of the Fireglass Mentor. But if the Vents does connect, then we are going to get a trigger. And, well, we're not going to get a trigger because the Go for the Throat's going to take care of the Mentor. And, yeah, Haviva kind of recognizing that she has enough power in play where you just want to make sure that Christian does not draw any extra cards, because that's realistically the way she loses. Is Christian has a turn where he, maybe draws a spell, hits a spell off Mentor, plays 2 more spells, and that sort of snowball. But Haviva does have very good control of this game and is looking poised to take this match down, and that would be the win for the team.
So why are we using Go for the Throat on the creature, not the creature land? Because if the creature land doesn't do any damage, then that card still just sits there as a 2/1 doing nothing.
I think Haviva I think she's okay with taking the 2 damage from the Restless Vents. So there's a couple of reasons. One, if you leave the Restless Vents in play, you're tying up Christian's mana for the next couple of turns. And 2, Fireglass Mentor is a little bit scarier because Christian has ways to deal direct damage that aren't in combat, right? There's the Iridescent Vine Lasher, which is the landfall, deal your opponent a damage. So if you leave the Mentor in play and Christian draws a Vine Lasher, then Christian can maybe go Vine Lasher, play land, deal you a damage, second main phase, get the Mentor, and then that could be a way to kind of snowball the game from there.
You know, we spoke about how good Shield Dread is. Shield Dread
Speaking of
looks pretty
snowball,
good right now. It's a good one. We know what this one does. Do not need to explain it. She is a big body, 4 and 5, Death Toucher. That has a little bit of text on it. It says that your opponent will lose 2 life when they draw a card, and you'll gain 2 life whenever you draw a card. Do you want to know how easily impressionable I am when I watch coverage? Yesterday in the finals, if everyone didn't go watch the modern event yesterday. You were talking about the deck that you're toying with Vine Lasher and the triggers. As soon as I heard you say that combo, I went, "That's really cool." I just went and bought 4 Vine Lashes on. I was like,
did you?
I'm
There you
in.
go.
Yeah, that's how impressive I am. We're gonna get in
Well,
again.
speaking of Vine Lasher, Christian does have 4 copies of Vine Lasher. So if you want to play this Lizards deck, you already got 4 of the cards you
I'm
need.
in. I'm in. Well, saying that it looks great game 2. This game 1 not going as good because we're flooding extremely hard now, up to what 7 lands. Passing the
Need a
turn back.
fireball. Any fireballs in Christian's deck? I don't think there is.
There is a fireball in standard, right? The green red one.
World Souls Rage. Yeah,
Yeah.
there might be another one, but
Again, huge limited all star. I just know a lot of these cards
wait.
from limited at this point.
Well, we figured it out. World Souls Rage puts lands into play for the Vine Lasher.
Let's go. We're brewing. We're cooking. Look,
We did it.
we know that you're a chef, okay? We know it. We're cooking. I love it. This is the corner, right? This is the animating the creature land, which this turns into a 4/4, right?
Yes, and I think even on the board with the chump block, the game should still be over because you chump block the shield raid and then still 8 coming through with the shielder trigger. So yeah, there should be enough for lethal, and it looks like Christian has realized that, and that is going to be the match. There you go.
Yeah, that's the NRG team taking it down. So we're going to step back to the booth and we're going to get that team set up. We're going to do a little interview for them because, they've got the top production here at the NRG. So it's going to be pretty sick to see. Didn't get to see any modern, but we saw a lot of it yesterday, of course. So we had 8 rounds of it plus that top 8. Some really cool decks. Like, still stuck in my mind is that mono red mid range deck. That was really cool to watch. Just got pipped to the post by that Goyos deck. The highlight, which I'm sure we're going to play again today at some point, was to me anyway, the whole match. But when it ended with the lightning bolt, chef's kiss.
Best of NRG.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, like the thing is, that's just like the 6-second clip of it was good. If you watch the whole match, there was a pit 13 cards to the bottom of my library, top deck the ring I needed, survive, Ulamog, wipe my opponent's board out, and then they just sandbag the land, play the land top deck. It's so good. It's so good. Go back and watch that if you haven't. It's all over the socials if you haven't seen it, but I'm sure we're going to be playing it a little bit around today. Highlight, like I really liked watching Legacy there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I really like that Beans deck looked like it was doing a lot of what I would like to do. Sit back, take my beating to start off with, and then just start snowballing. As soon as I get 1 Beans down, cast a spell, replenish the card in my hand. All these cards are now 2 for 1 in my opponent. They're never going to keep up with this, the amount of advantage that I'm generating.
Yeah, I mean, highlight for me was standard. We got to see that Golgari deck in action. We got to see Rakdos do its thing, and yeah, there was a really, really fun match to watch.